everyone. Welcome back to Presley Mania. My name is Rhonda. Thank you so much for tuning into my show. We are going to be going over the ruling of the judge in Florida. I did a short earlier in the week and told you that I was expecting for this to come down, and sure enough, it has. I want to talk to you about it. I have the judge's orders right here in front of me, and we are going to go over them and talk about what has happened. If you are new to my channel and you are not familiar with exactly what I'm talking about, let me suggest you go back, click on Presley Mania, and look at my videos. And if you go back, these have been going on for a couple of years, you can refresh, or not refresh, but you can go through them and you can catch up and know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what has happened. So as we know, brigittekruse filed a case against Priscilla Presley for breach of contract. And then Priscilla turned around and filed a suit in California against Brigitte for elder abuse. Well, both of these suits are kind of going hand in hand. The problem is that the California case has advanced much further than the case in Florida did. And a lot of that was hinging on the fact that they were trying to prove that Florida had personal jurisdiction over Priscilla. And Priscilla kind of did a little song and dance delay, and which worked out to her benefit. And they never got that done. And so as a result, this has drug on far longer than it should have. And it's really, really sad to me because I think Brigitte had quite an opportunity here to do some damage control where Priscilla is concerned. And because of choices and things that she made, I feel like that it ruined those chances. So let's get started. Order granting defendant's motion to stay proceedings and denying motions as moot. All right, this matter came before the court for hearing on June 24th, 2025 on defendant Priscilla Presley's motion to stay, or in the alternative, continue the July 21st, 2025 evidentiary hearing that was filed on May 27th of 2025. All right. We're going to skip over some of this and we're going to go to something that I found extremely interesting, that the judge would put this in his order. It's background and procedural history. Okay, I'm going to read. How much of this am I going to read? I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs of this because I find it quite telling. So, background and procedural history. Beginning in 2021, plaintiff Brigittekruse and defendant Priscilla Presley, aka Priscilla Beaulieu, and then Presley is in parentheses, had various interactions while Presley was in California, ultimately leading to Presley making Kruse her advisor. In 2022, Presley traveled to Florida, where she signed a variety of agreements pursuant to which Kruse and Kevin Fialco would manage limited liability companies created for the purpose of exploiting the name, image, and likeness of Presley with the parties to share the profits derived therefrom. Here comes the paragraph that got me. Presley either grew dissatisfied with the arrangement or got wise to Kruse's trickery, depending on who you ask. In any event, in August 2023, Presley, through counsel, sent Kruse a cease and desist letter revoking Kruse's authority over her affairs, demanding that Kruse and Fialco account for the actions taken by them on Presley's behalf, and providing that Presley would take legal action to protect her interests, property, business, and personal affairs if her demands were not met. A month and a half later, on October 9th, 2023, plaintiff Priscillapresley Partners, LLC, through Kruse, filed this action, meaning the one I'm reading right now, the Florida case. The operative complaint was subsequently amended to add related plaintiffs and claims, and Presley moved to dismiss the operative pleading for lack of personal jurisdiction and failure to state a claim upon which relief may be granted. The court reserved ruling on the motion to dismiss for lack of personal jurisdiction pending the conduct of an evidentiary hearing, and that hearing was set to occur on July 21st, 2025. Meanwhile, the parties are engaged in litigation in California. On July 18th, 2024, after the filing of this case, Presley sued Partners and its managers, Kruse and Fialco, among others, in California for allegedly engaging in elder abuse directed towards her and deceiving her into signing the agreements with plaintiffs that are at issue in this case, meaning the California case. Presley has filed certain orders of the California court denying Kruse and Fialco's motions, challenging the California court's jurisdiction over them, and denying their subsequent motion to dismiss or transfer the California case on forum non-convenience grounds. It was the California court's finding that the elder abuse alleged occurred in California against a Californian, and it therefore had a strong public interest in the case, and that California's interest is stronger than Florida's interest. Against that backdrop, moves for an order staying this case in deference to the California case. All right, he gives an analysis and a conclusion, and he says, here the facts and circumstances compel the conclusion that this action should be stayed in deference to the California case, and that the first filed rule should not apply because Partners' filing of this case was an anticipatory filing. And what that means, I think on the last show I did regarding this, we talked about that Priscilla's attorneys were saying that Brigitte filed this suit in Florida, albeit before Priscilla filed in California, because she was anticipating Priscilla filing in California against them. And remember, I read a text between Brigitte and Priscilla, and Brigitte was aware that Priscilla was going to do this and had asked her to postpone it and that they get together and have a meeting. Well, what came out later was that what Priscilla had shared wasn't all of the text. So they had set up a meeting, and then Priscilla canceled it at the last moment. So obviously that did not matter to this judge. He still felt that there was significant issue at hand to grant Priscilla's motion. So let's talk a little bit more as to what his reasoning was. He said, compelling circumstances warrant a stay of this case pending disposition of the California case. First, there is significant overlap between the parties an issue in the case and those in the California case. And Kruse and Partners are defendants in the California case adverse to Presley, the sole plaintiff in the California case and the sole defendant here. Some of the limited liability company entities are plaintiffs here, but not defendants in the California case. But the court gives this little weight inasmuch as the validity of their existence is potentially at issue in the California case. So what he's saying here is if in California Priscilla wins and the elder abuse case is proven, these contracts are going to be null and void. They're not going to be worth the paper they were printed on. So therefore, what good is a trial? What good is continuing this if, the California case is won by Priscilla? And so that's why he granted the stay, is because he truly feels like that needs to be decided first. He goes on and he says that the California case has progressed farther than this case has. The court in the California case has already disposed of motions regarding personal jurisdiction and the convenience of California as a forum, twice rebuffing Kruse and Fialko's attempts to venue the disputes between the parties in Florida. He said, meanwhile, in 3 months, this case, meaning the one in Florida, will have been pending for 2 years. It is now past the target trial date for a case assigned to the standard business court track, yet the parties are still litigating the threshold issue of personal jurisdiction over Presley, and with Presley now contesting the ability to move forward with the July 21st hearing due to incomplete jurisdictional discovery, it is not entirely clear that the hearing would even go forward. The court finds that all of the foregoing warrants a stay of these proceedings pending the disposition of the California case. Okay, and he lists the facts and circumstances of the case, warrant application of an exception to the first filed rule, and Brigitte came back after Priscilla had asked for this stay and said, but we filed first, and so we should be able to get our hearing. Well, according to how the judge interpreted it, he's saying that he feels like that Brigitte and Kevin Fialko filed this case because they knew that one was coming against Priscilla. And then he says, finally, the court finds staying this action is in the interest of judicial consistency as between the rulings of the court in the California case and the rulings of this court. The court in the California case found that, okay, and this is what was in the California court case, and this is what it says. It is worth noting that the Florida action filed by those who are defendants in the instant case began only after Presley started writing to the defendants, questioning their actions and asserting her rights. The court simply does not view this as forum shopping, but rather as trying to decide whether a defendant should be given the gold medal for winning the race to the courthouse. The court declines to give that award. Well, isn't that interesting? And so here is what was ordered and adjudged. Number 1, defendant's motion to stay proceedings is granted. This case is stayed pending further order of the court. Number 2, all pending discovery in this case is suspended. All previously scheduled hearings are canceled. Number 3, defendant's motion to compel and defendant's motion for a protective order are denied. Well, Priscilla didn't get that, but here's why. He says because he feels like it's moot without prejudice to further consideration of them on termination of the stay. Defendant's motion to continue hearing and defendant's motion for oral argument are denied as moot. The clerk of court is directed to administratively close this case until such time as the stay has terminated pursuant to further order of the court. So, done and ordered, and he signed it, Chad K. Alvaro, Circuit Judge. So, there you have it. So, before we get too excited over the fact that Priscilla didn't get the motion of, she wasn't granted the protective order. Let's talk about that a little bit. So there's nothing else they can do on this case. So the judge says, what good is it giving her a protective order when basically this case is closed until a ruling is done in California? And that's going to be coming pretty soon, I feel like. And if Priscilla wins that court case in California, it's over. It's done. Like that Elvis song. It's over. Completely done. And I really, really feel like my gut feeling is that Priscilla is going to win. California is very, and it was stated in some of the paperwork, they take elder abuse seriously. Do I personally think she was being abused, elderly abused? No, I do not think that. Not in the least. I think that those contracts, per the video that we saw, it was evident to me that she knew what she was doing. She did not look like somebody was, holding her hostage and say, put your name on the dotted line here. She said that she completely trusted Brigitte, but yet she's still not going to be able to continue this, because California, if they rule that Brigitte elderly abused Priscilla, then that makes the contracts that she signed with her completely null and void. They will hold no water whatsoever. Now, what will happen? What will be if in fact Brigitte is found guilty of elderly abusing Priscilla Presley, what is going to happen? What will the sentence be? There's no telling. That's got to be extremely nerve-wracking for Brigitte. She's got to be worried about all of that. I think it is truly a shame that it has come down to this. I think that things were mishandled by Brigitte. I think maybe things got leaked that shouldn't have been. Whether they were done intentionally or not, I have my own opinion as to what I think. And remember, this show is for entertainment purposes only. So whatever I state as my opinion is just that. It's just opinion, and not meant to be construed as fact. But, reaching out to people in YouTube, I don't know that turned out to be such a viable deal for her. I think it's ended up hurting her, in all honesty. And then leaking that video, which to me is evidence that Priscilla knew what she was doing, and I'm sure that's why Brigitte leaked it. But it's still, according to the California courts and what they filed against her, and some of the motions and things that they talked about, was that it was unethical, and that Brigitte was tied to a confidentiality agreement with Priscilla. Now, since this case is on hold until a verdict is reached in California, and Priscilla was not granted a protective order, will that give Brigitte some leeway to leak some more things? I don't know. Supposedly she's got a lot of dirt on her, and I'm sure she does. I'm sure she has a lot of dirt on Priscilla, but I think Priscilla's got a lot of dirt on Brigitte. I have said from the very beginning, they are both two peas in a pod, and I feel like they are both guilty. Always remember this. This is what I've said. And I think this is the most telling part of the whole thing, is Brigitte was around when Priscilla filed the suit against Riley for control of Lisa Marie's trust. Brigitte was complicit in all of that. Brigitte helped put it all together. Brigitte was, in fact, Priscilla's power of attorney. She knew what she was doing. She knew good and well what she was doing. It was okay. Was it okay with her to file a suit against Riley? Going against Lisa Marie's wishes? We've talked about this in detail before. But to me, that is the most telling aspect of everything. When I say they both have dirt, that means that I feel like Brigitte has got dirt too because of what she did. Instead of standing up and saying, no, I will not do that, we're not going to go any further with this partnership, she continued. And now, as Priscilla so often does, and gets tired of people, and she uses you until she's used you up, remember, entertainment purposes only, then you're kicked out the door and you're left holding the bag. And then it is nothing new for Priscilla to file lawsuits. She has filed many. And this is just another one. Her interests are always first. Priscilla Presley's interests are always first. Go all the way back to Elvis. She's always number one. Look at how she treated Lisa. Who was number one? Lisa or Priscilla? Well, in my viewpoint, it never was Lisa, I can tell you that. And we have cited many reasons why I believe that as well. We're not going to go into those right now. But when somebody is that, how do I word this? When somebody is so, looks at themselves as number one and the most important, their needs are always going to come before anybody else's. And I feel like that if you just take a look at her life and the life she has led, that's what it says to me, is that I'm more important than anybody else, and this, my needs are more important as well. Otherwise, why would she have filed suit against her own granddaughter for control of Graceland? And I know there are a few of you who are Priscilla fans who watch this show, and you get really aggravated at my opinions where she is concerned. And you have that right. You have every right to state what you believe. I may not agree with it, but it's still your right. So anyway, this is the outcome, and I feel like at this point that it's just a matter of time until it truly is over for brigittekruse and what she's got going on. Now, this is not the only two cases that Brigitte has going. Elvis Presley Enterprises has filed a suit against GWS Auctions as well, which is Brigitte's company, regarding some things that they considered underhanded dealings on auction items that were Elvis's that have been auctioned off. Now, here's the thing on that. Priscilla was involved in that. I am going to try, and I've looked into it, I'm trying to get more paperwork on this case. And if I'm able to secure it, it may give us a little bit more insight into what's going on with that. I do know that there were some people that had been named that were not disclosed in the original filing between Elvis Presley Enterprises. Priscilla probably, I would like to think she's one of them, but my gut is she's not. That the trust that and the agreement that was made between her and Riley was that Riley, would do her best to advocate for her grandmother on certain issues. So could that come into play? Yeah, I think it most certainly could. So we will see. So anyhow, that's all I've got for today. So until next time, remember, you only get one shot at this life. So live each day to the fullest, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Hope to see you all next week. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.